Hi, and welcome to The Drive. I'm Brian Montopoli from CBS News, and we are here to talk about the Republican presidential candidates and where the field stands. Now, this is our fundraising spectacular episode. I'm going to be talking about who raised what in the second quarter. Now, fundraising may not be the most thrilling of topics right off the bat, but trust me, it's very important. One, just simply to run a campaign, you need money. You need to pay for travel, you need to pay staff, organization, all of that stuff, and you need money for that. And two, your fundraising number sends a signal to donors in the future about whether you're a viable candidate. If you only raise $1 million for the quarter, people are going to say, well, maybe this guy's not a serious contender, and they're not going to give you money in the future. So you want to put up a big number. Everyone in D.C. is trying to spin this week, so let's get right to it. First of all, Mitt Romney, our front runner. You'll see him out on the 30-yard line on the drive towards the nomination, the end zone being the nomination. And he is our front runner. He raised $18.25 million. He also has a super PAC that's helping him out. That's a big number compared to the rest of the field, and it really does dwarf the rest of the field. But it's not a huge number. It's a little bit below expectations. It's less than he raised during a quarter in 2007. So it's sort of the kind of number that people are going to say, okay, Romney remains the front runner. He's definitely beating everyone, but he's not sort of raising so much money that's going to scare everyone else out of the race. So Romney remains our front runner. One thing to mention on him, great poll for him this week in New Hampshire, shows him very comfortable. This is a state he has to win. Right now it looks like he's got a good chance of winning it. Three candidates have come in between $4 and $5 million, and that is Ron Paul, who we have here, the libertarian-leaning congressman, Tim Pawlenty, a guy who was seen as a top-tier candidate for a long time, but is starting to not be seen as that, starting to fade to the second tier, and Jon Huntsman. Now, we had Jon Huntsman up at the 20, and I've moved him to the 15, and the reason for that is this. This is a guy who, at the beginning, there was a lot of buzz about him in Washington, but people weren't really talking about him in the greater public. No one knew who he was. So the sense was, okay, he's not doing well in polls now, but he'll come on. But the problem for Huntsman is that there have been some polls since he debuted in New Hampshire, and he doesn't seem to be catching on. This same poll that had Romney way up had Huntsman at about 2% in New Hampshire. Huntsman's got to do well in New Hampshire, and 2% is not going to do it, so we had to move him back a little bit. Michelle Bachmann is another candidate I want to talk about. She has not released her fundraising numbers, and they're going to be very interesting to see because Bachmann is trying to run a Huckabee-like campaign from 2008. You remember that Mike Huckabee won the Iowa caucuses in 2008. Bachmann has a similar message. She's hired a lot of the same people, but the difference is, unlike Mike Huckabee, Michelle Bachmann can raise money. If she can put up a big number, if she can put up a $6 or $7 million number, it's going to make her the prohibitive front runner in Iowa. Polls show she's at the top now. She's really caught fire with some of these social conservatives and fiscal conservatives, and the fundraising number will only help. So watch for what Michelle Bachmann does. I want to talk about one more person, and that's Newt Gingrich. You'll see we have Newt back here in the end zone. This is a guy who has had the worst possible campaign you could imagine thus far, and the news has not gotten any better. He raised $2 million for the quarter, which isn't absolutely terrible, but it also came out that he's about $1 million in debt. So this is a guy who's just trying to pay off his bills right now while trying to run a campaign, while trying to rebuild a campaign. He's very well known, and he can sort of do a lot of free media stuff that some of the other candidates can't do. So maybe he can run this way for a while, but the fact of the matter is Gingrich's campaign is in deep, deep, deep trouble. He's now officially a long shot for the campaign, for the nomination, and so there he stands. I want to mention real quick that President Obama is going to outraise when he announces his number. It's expected all of these folks combined. There's a lot of Republican money still on the table. Some of that money might go to Rick Perry, the Texas governor, who hasn't announced, but who has a real strong following among the Tea Party movement, and a lot of the Washington insiders and a lot of evangelicals really like Rick Perry. So some of that money could go to Rick Perry if he announces a campaign, or it could just stay on the table. I mean, this may be a year where people aren't just going to spend as much. We'll have to see what happens. But I believe that is it for this latest episode of The Drive. I'm Brian Montopoli. Thanks for being with us on our Drive Fundraising Spectacular. See you next time. Thank you very much for being with us.